General Harrison returned from the south with a performer, a man. Yet he forced his sons to call him the Dove. The Dove was a cold figure, and it took a great deal of effort before Ethan was permitted to become his patron. But much later, when the old political order was restored and the rightful heir, long thought lost, successfully reclaimed his position, things changed. He appointed Ethan's father a general, his brother a secretary, and Ethan as his personal live-in steward. General Harrison, a man of rigid principles, had nonetheless brought a performer back from his time in the South after the usurper had seized power. The performer's face was hidden behind a silk scarf, revealing only a pair of eyes as brilliant and sharp as polished gold. The general had announced that from now on, they were to call him the Dove. Ethan stared at the man's towering 6'3" frame and was stunned. His older brother, Marcus, stared at the man's sharp Adam's apple and the distinct, powerful knuckles of his hands, equally speechless. That very evening, the general, impatient and burning with a palpable need, led a few of his old associates into the Dove's private cottage. The door was closed, the gate locked. The candlelight burned all night, not extinguishing until dawn. From then on, it became a daily ritual. Marcus, disgusted, had muttered with contempt that this was no dove, but a common whore. The general, furious, pulled him aside for a few sharp, private words. That night, Marcus too went to the cottage, his face a mask of eagerness and desire. Ethan, studying late in his room in the main house, watched from his second-story window as his father and brother emerged from the Dove's residence. Their expressions a mixture of satiated bliss and fervent excitement. They had taken only a single step away when the door opened again. The Dove stood there, his silhouette as lean and graceful as bamboo in the night wind, an alluring specter. The sight drew his father and brother back, each more loyal than the last, even bowing to him slightly. Witnessing this, Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. He had been staring for less than a second when the Dove suddenly looked up, his gaze uncanny and precise, locking onto Ethan's window. He narrowed his eyes, a cryptic smile playing on his lips that felt like a golden hook scratching at Ethan's soul. Terrified, Ethan quickly ducked his head, silently reciting legal precedents, his mind screaming, "It's over, it's over. Father and Marcus have both fallen. I'm next." He vowed he would not be tempted. He was the one tasked with restoring the family's honor, and he had to remain focused, to study relentlessly for his entrance exams. But a day passed, then 3, then half a month, and the Dove made no move to entice him. Ethan stared at his textbooks, the candlelight flickering low, his gaze drifting woodenly out the window. He wondered if perhaps he should go over and ask. It wasn't that he wanted to be seduced, but he was merely feeling a sense of psychological imbalance. Tonight, there were no lanterns lit by the Dove's cottage. He had no visitors. After some thought, Ethan wrapped up a box of exquisite pastries from Lafayette's patisserie, a treat he had been saving, and held it to his chest. The man must have come from a difficult background, he reasoned, to debase himself before other men and serve so many without a word of complaint. Ethan felt he should offer a respectable gift, not something cheap just because of the man's station. The wind was bone-chilling. Cradling the gift, he tapped lightly on the door. After a moment, the Dove opened it. He glanced down at Ethan, raising an eyebrow with amusement. He questioned what errand the general had sent his youngest son on this time. Ethan shook his head vehemently, insisting his father hadn't sent him, that he had come on his own. The Dove stood tall in his long robe, his golden eyes glittering in the moonlight like shimmering water. It took Ethan a moment to realize the implication of his own words. He quickly clarified that the man shouldn't be afraid. He wasn't there for that. He just wanted to pay a simple visit. The dove was silent. Ethan quickly thrust the pastry box into his hands, explaining they were from Lafayette's patisserie and that he had to wait in line for ages to get them. He was sure the dove had never had them before. He felt his own words tumbling out, clumsily trying to earn some favor. The dove looked at him without expression and asked if that was the only reason he had come. Intimidated by the man's powerful aura, Ethan shrank back. He couldn't bring himself to say anything else, so he just nodded, gave a slight bow, and scurried away. The next day, his father stormed into his room, solemnly him never to go near the dove again. When Ethan demanded to know why, pointing out that Marcus could go, his father slapped him across the face in frustration, calling him a fool and saying he could not be compared to his brother. Ethan hung his head. His father stood over him, sighed with deep meaning, and spoke of the dangerous path they were on. He said he only had 2 sons, and with Marcus already in the game, he hoped Ethan would remain to carry on the family name. The gravity of it all seemed absurdly dramatic, but Ethan dared not talk back, fearing another slap. His father instructed him to stay in his room and study for next year's exams. Ethan respectfully agreed. After that, he never looked out the window towards that small cottage again. Until the 4th of July. He was given the day off to drink wine and watch fireworks with the family. The dove was not at the dinner. The wine was good and so was the food. Ethan found himself thinking that the dove had probably never experienced such things. Locked away in his small courtyard, eating alone every day. He wondered what the man thought about. Or perhaps he simply didn't want the Harrisons involved with him, which was why he had told the general about Ethan's secret visit. Mulling over these things, Ethan drank a little too much. After the celebration, he stumbled back towards his room. Halfway there, he thought he heard someone crying. The sound was faint, carried on the night wind. His first thought was of the dove. After much hesitation, he snuck back downstairs. The cottage gate was locked. Seeing no one around, he climbed the wall. Just then, the wind died, and everything fell silent. The sobbing sound was gone. The alcohol seemed to vanish from his system, and he stood rigidly in the courtyard, realizing what a reckless thing he had just done. As he was about to retreat, he heard a low groan from inside. He paused, then cautiously pushed the door open. The dove was asleep, his eyes squeezed shut, brows knitted in a troubled frown. Ethan crept closer and touched his forehead. It was burning hot. In the next instant, as if sensing him, the dove jerked awake, seized Ethan's wrist, and slammed him onto the bed, demanding to know who it was. The pain was sharp. It felt like being pinned by a wild animal. How could he be so strong? Ethan managed to utter 2 words before the dove slowly released him, saying his name. He even remembered his voice. Ethan whispered that he had a fever. The dove simply grunted in acknowledgement. When Ethan asked if he should get a doctor, the dove refused, explaining that he didn't want to trouble the general. With the political climate so tense, it was best not to let strangers see him. Ethan agreed, mentioning that the new regional governor was known to dislike decadence and vice. The dove paused, a note of disbelief in his voice. He asked what he had to do with those words. Ethan earnestly explained that the dove was the decadence. The man fell silent, likely not understanding the turn of phrase. Ethan, trying to be helpful, suggested that perhaps the dove hadn't had much schooling and it was understandable if he didn't grasp complex idioms. The man said nothing more, but his coughing grew worse. Ethan felt his back. It was slick with a cold sweat. This wouldn't do. He helped him lie back down, soaked a cloth in cool water, and placed it on his forehead. Then he sat by the bed, lost in thought. The dove asked impatiently if he had something else to say. Ethan explained he was waiting for the cloth to dry so he could wet it again. He stated that the fever was serious and needed to be brought down, or it could be fatal. The dove's voice softened as he asked Ethan to repeat what he'd just said. Ethan obeyed. "Dove, your fever is very high." The man sighed, muttering that heaven must have sent Ethan to torment him. Ethan wanted to argue, but considering what his father and brother had done, calling it torment seemed fair. It was only natural for the dove to take out his frustrations on him. After a moment of silence, the man spoke again, telling Ethan to say something. Ethan refused, explaining he was in the middle of memorizing a legal text and an interruption would force him to start over. The dove sighed again. For someone in his line of work, being overly sensitive was perhaps understandable. When he finished his recitation, Ethan felt the cloth. It was dry. He re-wetted it and placed it back on the man's forehead. The dove mumbled that it was covering his nose. Ethan quickly apologized, located his nose, and repositioned the cloth correctly. The dove then asked if he planned to fuss over him like this all night. Ethan corrected him, saying it wasn't fussing, it was cooling. The man then asked how he knew he was sick in the first place. After a moment's hesitation, Ethan decided to be honest. He confessed that on his way back, he'd heard someone crying and thought it might be him. There was a long silence. Then the dove explained that it wasn't him. He hadn't been crying. Lying on his back, he stared blankly at the ceiling. In a quiet voice, he said he was just missing his brother a little. Missing home. Ethan patted his arm. The dove asked what that was supposed to mean. Was it comfort? He questioned if Ethan couldn't use words to console someone. Ethan admitted that he wasn't eloquent like his brother. He had always been clumsy with words. The dove didn't believe him and challenged him to try. Ethan racked his brain and finally offered that he should think on the bright side. His home was surely not this spacious. It would be freezing in the winter. He even asked if the dove's family home had a proper roof. The dove was silent, then let out a laugh that was more exasperation than humor. He beckoned Ethan closer. He cupped Ethan's chin, forcing their eyes to meet. The moonlight softened the sharp angles of his face, stripping away his defenses and revealing a disarming tenderness. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. The dove gently pinched his cheek. Just you wait, Ethan Harrison. What was he waiting for? Would he, too, eventually become a guest in this bed? Ethan didn't know. He only knew that this time, his father didn't storm into his room and hit him. The dove hadn't reported him. Secretly pleased, Ethan made a point of waking up early to buy pastries from Lafayette's for him. After some time, perhaps softened by the gesture, the dove sighed in resignation. He told Ethan to stop calling him the dove. His name was Julian, he said, and being 2 years older, Ethan should call him by his name. Ethan nodded. Julian. Julian, it turned out, was not from the poor background Ethan had imagined. As they grew closer, he began to help Ethan with his studies, his insights sharp and substantive. He was different from Ethan's father and brother. He never called Ethan stupid or contemptuously said that teaching him was a waste of time. Julian was a patient and gentle teacher. He would stop Ethan's self-deprecation, telling him his essays had good ideas but were too timid. He explained it was because Ethan lacked confidence in himself and forbade him from ever calling himself stupid again. Ethan nodded, finding himself captivated by the man's handsome face and the pleasant scent of his clothes. As Julian focused on marking up his essay, Ethan cautiously leaned his head closer, an unconscious desire for proximity taking over. "Ethan," Julian said with a frown, "your head is about to fall into my lap." What are you thinking about? Ethan looked at him earnestly. He suggested maybe he should go back to calling him the Dove. He gently took the man's sash, whispering that he always wanted to be close to him. Julian's expression turned strange. Just as he was about to speak, Ethan looked down shyly and murmured that he guessed he truly thought of him as a mother. Julian violently snatched his sash back and gripped Ethan's chin, forcing him to look up. His dark golden eyes were wide with something close to despair as he glared at him. Through gritted teeth, he hissed, "Ethan Harrison, I have absolutely nothing to do with the word mother. Do you understand? Go back and think again about why you always want to be near me. And if you can't figure it out, don't come back." Ethan was kicked out, clutching his schoolwork. He ran right into his father and Marcus. Their faces changed when they saw him. Marcus snatched the essay from his hands, his eyes widening with a hint of fear as he saw the red ink annotations. Ethan quickly tried to explain it wasn't Julian's fault, that he had sought him out, but they ignored him, entering the cottage and speaking in low tones. Ethan didn't know what was said. He only knew that afterward, his father no longer restricted his movements. He didn't have to sneak over to see Julian anymore. He didn't even have to get up early for pastries. His father had a servant buy them for him every day, glaring at him and grumbling that all he did was eat. Ethan had figured out the answer to Julian's question. He still wanted to be his patron. It wasn't a mother he saw, but the warmth of that atmosphere had made him want to stay, to belong, leading him to mistake it for familial affection. He still desired him. That desire festered, tormenting his slow heart. Every time he saw his father or brother enter Julian's cottage for the night, the jealousy was a churning sea. He would clench his jaw, lower his head, and force himself not to imagine what was happening inside. His pen would slam uncontrollably onto the paper. When he finally calmed down, just as the light in the cottage went out, he would see that he had filled the page with Julian's name. He stood up, his body moving on its own, and strode to Julian's cottage. He knocked. The door opened, and Julian stood there, arms crossed, leaning against the frame. He asked if he'd figured it out. Ethan nodded. Julian chuckled, saying it was good he had. His father and brother had just left, and the tea was still warm. They could talk. He led Ethan to a low couch. He shook his head and murmured what a fearless family the Harrisons were. Ethan couldn't hear his words anymore, the back of his neck tingling with nerves. To confess one's feelings was to hand a knife to the other person and offer your own throat. As he searched for the right words, Julian continued, explaining that his father and brother wanted to keep him out of the game, to have a fallback plan. But sometimes, he mused, the fallback plan wants to take a risk of its own. He handed Ethan a glass of bourbon, his eyes smiling. He had intended to respect their wishes, but Ethan's repeated gestures had shown a strong ambition. Even he had no choice but to oblige. He lightly tapped his glass against Ethan's. The crisp clink was like a signal. "So, tell me, Ethan Harrison, why do you seek me out?" Much later, Julian would say that he genuinely believed Ethan wanted to join his political cause, to help him reclaim his rightful place. He had been trying to figure out where to position him, a role that would use his talents without putting him in danger. But he never expected what came next. Ethan took a deep breath, nodded firmly, drank the bourbon, and summoned all his courage. "Julian," he said, "I want to be your patron, too." The smile froze on Julian's face. He swayed slightly, as if he hadn't understood. He asked Ethan what he meant, if he even knew what a patron was in this context. Ethan blushed and mumbled that he did. He watched Julian's face, his heart sinking. After a heavy silence, Julian stared at him and asked in an extremely soft voice, "You want to sleep with me?" Ethan glanced at the man's imposing physique and added meekly, "I'm flexible." Julian took a deep, shuddering breath. Before he could tell him to get out, Ethan scrambled to his feet, apologizing for his offense and turning to leave. But a hand caught his sleeve. He looked back at Julian, who seemed surprised by his own action. He released him with a blank expression. Ethan fled. Halfway back, he felt the sting of tears but forced them back. It was fine, he told himself. He wasn't as smart or ambitious as his brother. Of course, Julian wouldn't be interested. But it still hurt. That night, he wrote only one short essay before falling into a restless sleep. In the middle of the night, he felt an oppressive heat and opened his eyes to find Julian sitting by his bed, staring at him with a blank expression. Ethan almost screamed. He heard Julian's quiet voice cut through the darkness. "I can't figure it out." Clutching his blankets, Ethan shifted over to make space. He told him it was cold, that he should get in and share the blanket. Julian's gaze turned peculiar. Ethan's tongue felt thick as he rushed to explain that he didn't mean anything by it. He was just worried he'd get sick again. Before he could finish, Julian slipped into the bed beside him. Sleepiness washed over Ethan again. Just as he was drifting off, Julian suddenly spoke. "Do I look like a rent boy?" Ethan yawned and asked what a rent boy looked like. Julian fell silent. A moment later, he accused him. "Didn't you say you wanted to be my patron? I'm lying right here and all you do is sleep." Already half asleep, Ethan mumbled an affirmative. Julian scoffed that he was half-hearted in everything he did. No wonder his studies didn't improve. His hand, cold from the night air, suddenly touched Ethan's neck. The shock woke Ethan completely, and he instinctively burrowed into Julian's warmth. Only then did Julian relent. Ethan said placidly that he thought this was nice. Julian asked what this was. Cuddling, sleeping together. This was nice. It felt like having someone with you in the dark, a presence that let you dream of forever. He patted Julian's arm. Julian didn't speak again. Ethan fell asleep, but was shaken awake sometime later. Julian asked if he had ever been with anyone. Ethan shook his head, closing his eyes, about to drift off again when he felt his shirt being unbuttoned. He stared at Julian, confused. Julian whispered, "Let's try." He propped himself up on his arms, caging Ethan beneath him. His eyes, dark gold and shimmering, were intoxicating. His voice was low, laced with a raw, unfamiliar desire. "Ethan Harrison, we can try." And so, he truly became the Cold Dove's patron. But after their first time, it was Julian who became insatiable. He was tall, with a strong build and boundless energy. He was like an untamed stallion, ready to devour Ethan whole. Ethan couldn't keep up, his back constantly aching. Julian would simply lift him, blanket and all, and carry him back to the cottage, claiming the bed in the main house was too hard. Ethan had believed him once, only to be swept into a frenzy of passion where Julian, emboldened by the privacy and space, grew even more unrestrained. After that, he refused to go, waving his hands and softly pleading with him to stop. Julian would pause, raising an eyebrow. When judging a potential crime, lean towards leniency. When granting a reward, lean towards generosity. It's the height of benevolence. Your thoughts? He was quizzing him on legal philosophy. At a time like this, Ethan panicked. A sudden movement almost made him cry out. He gripped Julian's shoulders and babbled his analysis. Any hesitation in his speech, and Julian's grip would tighten. He spoke whatever came to mind, and was finally returned to the hard but reassuringly familiar bed in his own room. Julian would laugh. That's better. Your arguments shouldn't be so cautious. Remember this feeling. Ethan could only nod, feeling that Julian was sometimes the devil himself. Then Julian would reveal a wicked, youthful grin, lean over him, and whisper that to know something is to review it constantly. The spring arrived, and it was time for Ethan to leave for university. His father warned him that this was a bigger league, to be careful not to speak recklessly about politics. His brother told him not to get lost or accept food from strangers. Julian asked softly, "Will you come back for your dove after you make your name?" Ethan was taken aback. Julian chuckled, waving a hand dismissively, saying he was only joking. Ethan stared at him. Julian gave him a gentle push. "Go on. What are you waiting for? Your father and brother are watching." Ethan took his hand. "I will." Julian's smile vanished. He looked stunned. Ethan looked him in the eye, his voice firm. "When I make my name, I will come back for you. You won't have to be locked in that little cottage anymore. I'll ask my father for your contract. You can live with me in the capital or go free, whatever you want. I'll support you." He took a deep breath and, in front of his father and brother, made a loud vow. "Julian, if Ethan Harrison makes his name and doesn't come back for you, may I be struck by lightning." Having used up all his courage, he released Julian's hand and got into the car. He didn't see the looks on his father's and brother's faces. Long after the car had departed, his father, pale and sweating, turned to his brother, both of them trembling. He let out a choked cry and nearly collapsed. Marcus supported him while frantically turning to Julian. "Mr. Sterling, our family has deeply offended you." Julian just smiled, looking at the old allies who had come under the pretense of seeing Ethan off and were now standing in stunned silence. "Ethan Harrison," he murmured, "I was just teasing you, and you've made a huge scene." He cleared his throat. "The time is right, gentlemen. The knives need to see blood." The journey was long. Ethan heard whispers of instability on the borders, of foreign agitation. A rumor spread like wildfire. The heir of the former ruling family had not died in the coup after all. Just after his final exams, he heard that several of the usurper's key allies had been assassinated, their heads displayed on the city walls as the release of exam results was delayed. The capital was under lockdown, a curfew imposed. Lying in his dorm room, unable to study, Ethan could only think of Julian. How good he smelled, how smart he was, how strong. Thinking of him, he fell asleep. Before dawn, he was woken by the sounds of chaos outside, shouting and the clash of steel. His roommate told him it looked like a coup. Fortunately, their building was on a quiet street and the doors were locked. Trying to flee would be more dangerous. He spent the night on edge. The next morning, a long, clear bell tolled from the direction of the capital. The streets erupted in celebration. The news spread instantly. The true heir, Julian Sterling, had executed the traitor and reclaimed the presidency. Ethan listened, happy for his father, who had always been a loyalist to the old regime. But it had little to do with him. His main concern was whether the exam results would be released, if the bar exam would proceed as scheduled. He couldn't imagine facing his father without a degree after having sworn to marry his courtesan. Fortunately, the new president was enlightened. The exams proceeded. He moved out of the dorm and was planning to rent a small house with a few other students when he saw his father in the city. For a terrifying moment, Ethan thought he had come all this way to punish him for his presumptuous declaration. But his father didn't mention it. He just gave him a very strange look and told him to clean himself up. They were going to the White House to see the president. Ethan was utterly bewildered. He pointed to himself. His father sighed. Let's go. The new president is rewarding his loyal subjects. Ethan didn't understand what this had to do with their family. They had lived quietly in the South all these years. Aside from bringing back a performer, his father had been a model citizen. Wait. Performer. A cold sweat broke out on his back as he knelt in the grand hall. Couldn't be what he was thinking. But then he heard that familiar voice, clear and commanding. You may all rise. It was the same voice that had whispered in his ear on countless nights, teasing, taunting, loving. It was unmistakably Julian. An aide began to read from a decree. General Harrison, for his loyalty and military genius, was appointed Secretary of Defense. His son, Marcus Harrison, for his sharp mind and strategic planning, was appointed Secretary of the Treasury. Ethan couldn't help but look up. A brazen act. But Julian, now President Julian Sterling, was already looking at him. Ethan Harrison is appointed steward of the presidential household, director of the 12 non-political agencies of the residence. Ethan almost choked. The 12 agencies. Those were the internal departments of the White House. Their heads were all career staff. And the director was the head of all of them. He was the chief of staff for the president's personal life. He was the head butler, the chief eunuch. He sat in the president's private study, holding the newly minted insignia, feeling his life was over. Julian, having changed out of his formal attire, came and crouched in front of him. Why the long face? I'm a servant, Ethan said. Julian, who had been pouring tea, paused. He tried to hold it in, but couldn't. Is that really your main takeaway from this? He pointed to the insignia. Director of the household. Unrestricted access. No clearance needed. Everyone in this house at any time must obey this. It's the power to move freely through the heart of the government. He looked at Ethan's face. And that's your reaction? Ethan hung his head. But the steward. Julian was exasperated. What else was I supposed to do? I checked your family tree. You have no connection to a political dynasty. I can't make you a cabinet member. A high-level political appointment is too much for you right now, and a low-level one would be a cage. I created this position. There's no rule that says what kind of person has to do it. Stop being picky. Ethan mumbled that he could just pass the bar on his own. Julian's face was a mask of indifference. He explained that even if he graduated at the top of his class, his first year would be spent as a junior associate at some firm, buried in paperwork and forced networking. He'd have no time to come to the White House. At a loss, Julian sighed, gently rubbing Ethan's ear. All right, I was wrong. I didn't think it through completely. He pulled Ethan into his arms. You want to take the bar? Go ahead. I'll just have to recuse myself from the character and fitness review this year. Ethan looked up, his eyes shining. Are you afraid you'll slip me the answers? Julian's expression was deadpan. I'm afraid the moment you see my face, you'll burst out laughing and get cited for contempt of court. I wouldn't be able to save you. He patted him. Ethan Harrison, you are truly a dead IO from a past life. His final oral examinations were conducted by a panel of senior judges. After Julian's intensive, hands-on tutoring, the questions seemed almost easy. He placed in the top 3. The top graduate was a tall, dark-skinned man from a poor background in the Rust Belt. The third was the handsome, elegant scion of a D.C. political dynasty. Ethan was awkwardly sandwiched between them. During the ceremonial procession for the press, women threw flowers and notes at the rugged top student. Others blushed and tossed roses at the princely third-place graduate. Someone pointed at Ethan and remarked that the guy in the middle looked like a lost assistant. The top student comforted him, saying his own top ranking was likely a political move by the president to inspire others from humble backgrounds. The blue-blooded graduate gracefully leaned over, complimenting the top student's intellect and inviting him to stay at his family's estate. The top student accepted with a formal thanks. Ethan watched the stiff, earnest top student and the effortlessly charming blue blood, who was already close enough to touch him, and felt he was witnessing the start of something. The blue blood seemed to sense his gaze and glanced back, a silent, smiling shush gesture with a finger to his lips. Ethan sighed. On the way back, they took a quieter route. He saw the blue blood admiring the other man's muscles. He sighed again, bid them farewell, and spurred his horse, leaving quickly. He decided to go to the White House. It was getting late. It was time to go feel Julian Sterling's chest for himself.